Okay, would you give us your thoughts on how you think the remaining redevelopment agency funds, the RDA funds, should be used?
You know, my understanding of what I remember about RDA funds is that they all have to be used by a particular year. And in this case, I think it's the redevelopment funds have to be used like by 2014. I think number one, they have to be used wisely. Number two, it's not just the boulevard. I'm a big believer that when people come into town, the first thing that catches their eye is the atmosphere, the climate, the downtown area. It's like, wow, this is cute, nice little town, let's stop and shop. I think it's very important, even though it's not easy, and I understand that, to go around and talk to all the businesses, not just a handful, and say, hey, how can we work together to use some of these redevelopment monies to improve the downtown district? We desperately need a downtown district. I am totally for one. I know there's a lot of property that has been here forever. I know there's people that probably don't want to see it developed, but at the same time, it's a necessity. We have to grow. We have to continue growing our population, and we can stagnate. I don't know that anything ever dies in a community unless maybe like a mining town or something like that.
Yeah.
It slows down, and the majority of businesses have got to come together and say, we're not just wanting you to give us something, we're willing to work with you to make it happen. And I think that's imperative to make this downtown district come to fruition. They need to come together and work as a team and be unified. And talk to everybody, not just Joe here and Susie at the other end. Go to all of them, do a survey, do something.
Okay. Well, that kind of segues into our next question. Next two questions, actually. There's been a lot of talk about doing something to improve the downtown district, and you know, I've been hearing the talk since about 204 or 203. Well, I don't know. Maybe since
before that.
maybe since the day I got here in 201.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the problems seems to be balancing the desires of the business owners or the property owners, and trying to get them to do something with their properties. How do you balance that out between the private property owners and the wants of the public and the
businesses.
city?
You know, I've learned, and I've been a businesswoman for, I'm giving my age away, 40 some years. I think approach is very, very important. How you treat people, how you respect what they have to say.
Okay.
I think there's areas where many of us need to look at ourselves before we go out and say, this needs to get done, versus asking, what do you think needs to get done? Most important, when anything like this occurs, people need to be open to listen. Many of us can hear, but we don't listen, and it's important to listen. If I owned property on the main boulevard, I would probably be reluctant to get rid of it, but at the same time, I'm willing to hear you out. You can't force people to sell their property, it's their property. But I think approach is imperative to trying to convince them why it's necessary as a whole, not just for one person or three businesses, but as a whole. I would get out there and talk to everyone that I could talk to. I would call them and say, you know, can we at least talk? And if there's a reason why you don't want to sell your property, you know, can you share it? Is there anything we can do to work together? And businesses need to step up to the plate and say, we are willing to work. We're not just going to sit back and expect it to happen. And I was a businesswoman in this town for a very, very short period, believe it or not, when I arrived here. But I'm also a very hyper woman. And this is why I know when I set my mind to do something, I'm going to accomplish it and I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Give us your thoughts on the proposed noise ordinance.
You
And-
skipped one.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go back to business. Give us your thoughts about not necessarily the Flying J project, but projects like that in terms of balancing the business concerns and the concerns of residents. In terms of economic development, not necessarily the pilot Flying J
Flying
project,
J.
but terms of that, can you tell us how you would balance those two issues?
Well, number one, I think one of the reasons why the community gets angry when things like the Flying J arise as far as a potential major project coming to us, is that they're not given the full disclosure of what exactly needs to be accomplished, whether it's in the beginning or at the end. And I also understand that there are confidential agreements, there are laws that have to be abided by. But if there's information out there that can be given to the people to help them understand why, I'm going to use Flying J as an example, why the
Okay.
Flying J didn't come to town, why they didn't stay. Is it so confidential that you can't say that, okay, the state says we're not going to expand that area where that needs to be expanded into maybe a three lane street in order for it to be able to be in and out, have the ingress and egress that's needed. I'm totally for growth. I think we need to grow. I don't particularly care to be in a huge city. I come from Dallas, that's my home. Then I came to Vegas and, well, I was ready to come to Mesquite. So the businesses need to let people know what is going on. I don't like evasiveness.
Okay.
I don't like evasiveness. If there are facts that you can have as a resident, as the public, and they can be given to you, whether it's by the city, by the staff, by the potential business, then it should be put out there. We're never going to please everyone. I mean, there's some people that regardless of what you do, it's not going to be enough, you know. But if you can satisfy the public with the facts, and I'm really big on facts, I think that would help a lot of the hostility that we feel, anger, that, you know, why couldn't you tell us that okay, Flying J didn't come here because of cost, because the state said we will not expand the highways, or because maybe the acreage was too confined to and not conducive to their needs, you know.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Okay.
And I don't have any problem expressing that to the public.
Okay.